Hi, welcome to Carpe Diem. This is a 2013 Marlow Explorer. It's the 62E model, and the 62 and 66 have a 19.5-foot beam, and that's a foot wider than a 58 Marlow. Really feels like a much larger yacht than 62 feet would indicate, and is still under the 70 feet that a lot of insurance companies are requiring a captain for. If you thought you didn't want a boat that's quite this old, consider it. It actually has less than 800 hours on it. The boat just wasn't used very much early in its life, and the current owner bought it and really brought it back to like new condition in many areas, redoing a lot of upholstery, upgrading some of the electronics, including Starlink, and really redoing all the soft goods in the boat. So it's really a nice boat, and a rare opportunity to get a boat with so low hours on it. Typically an owner would use a boat 200 to 300 hours a year, so in 10 years you would accumulate 2,000 to 3,000 hours. Well, this boat at only 800 hours for 2013 is just exceptional. So it's a really good value and a really nice boat. The reason the owner's selling it is he and his wife really enjoyed cruising last summer, and they actually want to move up to a larger boat, but he doesn't want to own two. So we've got this on the market, and we're going to find him a larger boat for next season. So let me walk you around the boat a bit and show you some of the upgrades we've done. Starting here in the cockpit, we just redid all of the cushions with Sunbrella. So inside and out, all the soft goods are new. And we also did all the varnish, so all the varnish has been brought back to like new condition, including the tables, the cap rails. All right, actually today, I'm going to do something a little unusual. I'm going to start with the engine room tour, because a lot of the time and effort that was spent on this boat was actually in the engine room on the mechanical systems. And I want to take you through some of those systems. It'll also help those of you that are looking at this kind of yacht for the first time understand what some of the big maintenance items are. Come on below. This crew cabin entrance is really nice. If you are going to use part-time crew, or maybe have family use the crew cabin area sometimes, you know, how you get in and out of this area is pretty important. A lot of smaller vessels have a deck hatch, and that can be a little cumbersome, especially underway. So this is a really nice thing. It's a lockable door. I can come and go from the crew area and engine room without coming into the vessel. It's also really nice when you have, say, Caterpillar coming in to do maintenance on the boat, and you're on the boat. They don't need to come into the vessel for anything. The breakers for the lights are down here. The light switches are down here. Engine room fan breakers are down here. So everything from turning on the microwave to being able to run the engines can be accomplished by going through this door and not having to come into the yacht. Come on below. All right, welcome to the engine room of Carpe Diem. As I mentioned, this yacht has very low hours for her age, below 800 hours. And typically an owner does about between 200 and 250 hours a year if they're going north to south and using the boat 6-8 months of the year. The Caterpillar maintenance schedule is to do an oil change once a year or every 250 hours, I believe it is recommended on these engines. So typically an owner will change the oil once a year, and maybe they have to change a generator oil a little bit more often if they anchor out a lot. The minor service is every year, and that's filters and maybe your impeller and things like that. But every 1,000 hours there's a bigger service, and this bigger service involves taking the aftercooler off, which is a heat exchanger, and having it cleaned every 1,000 hours. And they adjust the valves every 1,000 hours, which is typically every 4 years. Now, as I mentioned, on this boat, we haven't even reached 1,000 hours yet. So come on in, I want to show you some key features in here. Okay, one of the bigger maintenance items in a motor yacht is the water-cooled exhaust. So in your car, you have a hot exhaust pipe, and that's okay. You wouldn't touch the exhaust pipe of your car, it would burn your hand. we can't really have a big exhaust pipe coming out of this engine room through a fiberglass hull. It would be a fire hazard. So the way it works in a marine engine is after the water goes through all the coolers and cools the fuel and cools the engine, comes into this tube and comes into this can, and this is called a wet exhaust system. And the dry exhaust is very hot coming through here. And picture this as a shower head. And what happens here is all the water that's come through the other systems on the boat gets sprayed like a shower head and cools its exhaust as it goes through here. It's a relatively expensive thing. It lasts about 10 years. The salt water in here wants to corrode the stainless steel. The hot exhaust makes it expand and contract a lot. So there's a lot going on in here, and typically between 7 and 12 years this is going to have to be replaced. And this was just done. Alright, another thing on a boat is that the propeller shaft, of course, spins, and you have to keep the salt water from coming in. There are many ways to do this. You may be most familiar with a wet system where there's some sort of a packing gland or shaft seal and a cutlass bearing. This boat's been upgraded to what's called a C-torque system, and this is lubricating oil in here. The propeller shaft is inside a tube, and it is lubricated with oil, and that tube has bearings and a cooler. So there is no dripless shaft seal that drips. It's an oil-filled shaft system with ball bearings, and it is so friction free. Let me see if I can do this. This is a big propeller. You could never do this on a normal boat without this system. Watch this. I'm able to turn this entire shaft system and propeller with my fingers. The company that makes the system tested it on a boat. They had a boat without it and put it in, measured the fuel usage, and they claim about a 7% savings on fuel. Because it has universal joints, you don't have to constantly worry about engine alignment. It's kind of like a diesel truck with its U-joints and its drive shaft. It's a similar technology here, where I don't have to have the engine perfectly aligned with the shaft and propeller. Also, it's a thrust bearing, so all the forward thrust from the propeller, instead of pushing on the engine and the motor mounts, is coming straight to the stringers, and now my motor mounts can be much softer, so the engine can kind of float. So it's a much smoother, better running boat than a conventional shaft system. This big box right here is the aftercooler I mentioned earlier. And what happens is very hot air comes out of the turbocharger, and the exhaust is very hot and flowing very fast, and it is spinning this fan, which is really a compressor, and when that air is compressed, it gets hot. Instead of putting hot air in the engine, it's better to put cooler air in the engine. And the way they do that is this heat exchanger assembly here has seawater going through it, and the seawater's going in this box, and there's a bunch of little tubes, and the air's flowing over it, and that's cooling the air before it goes into the engine. So you'll hear the expression turbocharged and after-cooled. So, of course, the engine has turbochargers. They all do now. They kind of have to emission-wise. And after the turbocharger, you want to cool it, and this is the after-cooler. And this owner did an exceptional job. He not only had it clean the normal way, but he also hired someone to paint all these parts and bolt heads and everything. So this thing was really like brand new. The marine exhaust system I mentioned earlier, not only was the little shower head piece done, but all this is new as well. So this is a special hard coating that's on top of the real exhaust pipe that's inside, and that keeps it cool. Kind of like asbestos. They don't use asbestos anymore, but it's a ceramic type material that insulates really well to keep it from getting so hot in here. Forward here, I'll just show you a few other features of the boat. This is a glass sight tube. So of course there's a fuel gauge, electronic fuel gauge if you will, at the helm. But this is a glass tube, You can see the fuel's in it, and you can open a valve and open this valve, and right now it's completely full. But what's really nice about this is it's not dependent on any electricity or any gauge working. You're actually reading the level of the tank. And in this boat, this is 2,260 gallon tank. It's the full width, the full height. It's about that deep. One big tank. It's at the center of buoyancy of the boat, so that the trim doesn't really change full to empty. Really great tank design. You don't have to fool around with switching valves, transferring fuel. You fill it up and use it just like you do your car. This little thing here is called a ghost system. That's part of a security system. That's a high water alarm. You can buy door sensors, motion sensors, voltage sensors for your shore power, all kinds of different things with that system. But it's really nice. You can also have it set up to talk to your phone, so that if you lose shore power or you get high water, someone's notified. Really, really nice system. This boat, like most Marlows in this class, have 2 generators. And we don't run 2 generators because we need to run them both at the same time. It's really nice to have 2 generators so that if you're on a long trip, you can put hours on each one of them individually. Also, if either one fails, the whole boat works. If you go to the Bahamas and anchor out for 2 weeks, you're not going to have to change oil if you have 2 generators. If you only have 1 generator and you're supposed to change oil every 200 hours and you're running 24 hours a day, you know, in 2 weeks you've got to change the oil. Whereas if you have 2 generators, you're fine. So you'll find that most of the southern boats built for the Caribbean and Florida are going to have 2 generators because we're very dependent on them for air conditioning. One other thing I wanted to show you in here is these big pumps. So we've only done this a couple of times. This is a hydraulic reservoir, and this is a hydraulic pump. There's another pump on the other engine. This boat has a full hydraulic package, and it has a joystick system and a Zenta station keeping where I can hit a button and this boat will sit there in front of a bridge in wind and current. The only way you can do that is with continuous duty hydraulic system like this. So this was specially built for the owner that requested this when it was new. And it's a quite expensive system to get it all working, and there's quite a few more parts here than an electric thruster boat. But it's very dependable and really, like I said, continuous duty. So 30 horsepower bow thruster, 30 horsepower stern thruster, hydraulic track stabilizers that are integrated into the same reservoir. Really, really robust system, and I'll show you those controls when we go to the helm. One of the questions I get a lot, or comments I get a lot, is I don't need crew, I'm going to run the boat myself. Well, what a lot of owners find is this boat's so capable with 2,200 gallons of fuel, and it's just very comfortable in adverse sea conditions. You may find yourself going much further and farther than you ever dreamed so far. When you start wanting to run this boat 1,000 miles down to Tortola, just you and your wife, it's tough duty. If you're going to run overnight, 2 or 3 nights, you probably are going to find it's good to take on a captain for a week, get the boat moved 1,000 miles, and then send him home. And you're much more likely to do that if he has his own space. So you guys don't have to be friends. A professional captain thinks this is really a great crew cabin. They have their own refrigerators, they have their own microwave, he's got his own head and shower, completely separate from the other living spaces in the boat. So even if you don't think you want a captain, having this capability is really going to open up your cruising possibilities. Alright, welcome inside the Salon. One of the first things you notice when you actually walk in this boat is how unusually wide it is. A 19.5-foot beam is pretty hard to accomplish in a boat of this length. And the way Marlow accomplishes this is we've done a lot to keep the weight down in the boat. So the boat is probably 30% lighter than a traditional vessel of this size, and it's probably 50% lighter than a heavy full displacement trawler. and that's because we use structural foam composites, where it's kind of like military aircraft are built now, where they're using a sandwich material with two thinner skins instead of solid thick fiberglass. Much more efficient. It's actually much stronger. So it's really a high-tech boat, even though it looks pretty traditional. Call me anytime or email me if you want more in-depth information about how all that works. But the sense of space is what's really important. You know, it's wider than normal, and I think being able to see through to the front windshields is really important. I've been in old motor yachts that are 40, 50 years old, and they can be 110 feet long, but they don't feel very big because you can't see more than 9 or 10 feet in a row, because they've got a bulkhead that you have to pass through all the time. And part of the sense of space here is not only the beam, but the ability to see all the way through the galley into the pilot house. Let me show you around inside. So we've just redone all of the soft goods, as I mentioned. So all of this is new. It's really high-end fabrics, really well done. Because the boat had low hours and really didn't have much use, the interior teak is really in great shape. So it really doesn't look like a boat more than 5 years old inside. Did a nice desk area here. My television is right here. He just upgraded to Starlink, so a lot of my clients are turning off the DirecTV or KVH. This one has a KVH. Instead of having a expensive satellite service, you just pay for Starlink, and now you've got high-speed data up and down, and you can use your Amazon Prime or Hulu or whatever your service is like you would use at home on the boat. And I've gotten great reports from owners of being able to get 100 megabit download 100 miles offshore, and it works anywhere in the world. So really, I think Starlink's become a game changer for a lot of people, especially my clients who are still having to work or just be online for investment reasons and things. Having Starlink lets you do everything like you would do it at home on your boat, pretty much wherever you are. So it's a real game changer for many. Over here I have bar functions, so I've got a nice sub-zero drink fridge with an ice maker built in. We have a nice little bar sink right here. Storage for your drinks back there. Back in the corner there, behind those chairs, sorry they're in the way, is a wine cooler. It's a 15-inch wine cooler. And just tons of storage everywhere. Also, these speakers, this has the Bose surround sound system. So this is my center channel, forward left, forward right, aft left, aft right. So normal 5-channel surround sound system in here. This little sensor here is the motion sensor for the Ghost security system. So you can set that up to alert you anytime you have motion when you've armed the alarm. And it's very much like an alarm system in your house. It just has quite a few extra features. For example, the high water alarm, like we talked about the engine room, but also we can monitor dock voltage. It can also track the position of the boat, so you can say, you know, if the boat moves more than 100 yards from this location, send me a notification, for example. Come on up into the pilot house. So they call this a raised pilot house motor yacht, and this style's been around for a while. The reason you want a raised pilot house is twofold. One is you want this lower helm to be up high enough that you can see well when you're cruising. The bow's always going to come up some on a boat, and if you've ever been in a flush deck boat, like say a 46 Grand Banks at the lower helm, when you're trying to go more than 6 or 7 knots, the bow starts rising and rising as you go faster and faster, and it gets harder and harder to see over the front. But here I'm up high enough that even at 20 knots I can see really well. I can see a crab pot right in front of the boat. The other reason to build a raised pilot house motor yacht is underneath this whole area I have a second story. So instead of sleeping in the bow, I have a full beam master amidship, and that's right under this galley area, which is in the center of the boat. So I'll show you that in a few minutes. And the galley and Pilothouse being together, I really find that socially, this is where kind of everybody wants to be. When the boat's underway, I'm at the lower helm a lot, and I really like being able to be in the air conditioning, out of the sun. My wife likes to sit right there. I can pay attention and see really well. I even dock from here quite often because I can see right out the back. If I'm by myself up here and I've got the autopilot on, I'm doing 8 knots off the beach, you know, I feel very secure hopping up from this helm station and coming over here and grabbing myself a cold water from the fridge. So some people say it's better to have a dedicated Pilothouse, but I find when I'm running a dedicated Pilothouse boat, it's pretty lonely. Like, people come and check on you, but you're by yourself all the time, and you really can't leave that helm at all, because as soon as you leave that area, you're blind to the world. So really having this ability when you're offshore is really nice. I've done a lot of overnight trips, and you know, if I'm 100 miles offshore on a 6-day trip, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I can get up, make myself a sandwich. I'm still watching the radar screen. I can still see out the windows. I haven't lost vision of where I'm going, and I don't constantly have to have someone come over and take over every time I want to get up a little bit. The galley here, really nice. So we tend to use these sub-zero drawers more than the big stand-up fridges. We'll build it however the client wants, but this lets me keep this open, and all the stuff stays down, and these drawers want to stay shut. So if I forget to latch this door and I'm out in big seas, it's more likely that it shuts because the bow's up. Same thing with a dishwasher, drawer style dishwasher, much safer than the big door that's folding open in the boat. One of the things I like to look at in any boat is how is a drawer built. Drawers are probably the area you can see poor craftsmanship the most. You've probably all experienced cheap furniture in your life where the drawer front was coming off the box, and that's because this was just stapled or lightly glued. But these dovetail joints are very strong. This drawer is on stainless steel slides, so even when it's heavy and full of stuff, it's going to slide easily and you're not going to fight with it. The joinery work in a Marlow is unbelievable. Even the cabinetry, of course, it's a solid teak door, but even inside a cabinet or inside a locker, all this has been lined with Formica, so you're never going to find a raw edge in the boat. There's no raw plywood anywhere. There's no raw fiberglass anywhere. Everywhere you look, it's completely finished. A lot of people ask me about this. Well, you're not going to do this very often, but it sure is great if your electronics guy needs to get up there and change a screen, run a new cable, change the VHF radio. I've got easy access to everything I need. That's the Flybridge electronics, and I don't have to take the boat apart. There's not a headliner falling down because he's been in here. We built proper access to the stuff you need. We actually have a overhead vent and light here. So when you're cooking, I pull this out, and that vent is really going out. So when I'm cooking, I'm getting the steam and the smells out of the boat. Flat cooktop, much easier to clean than the typical boat one with the little nested places for the pots. And there are stainless steel pot holders that they keep on here to hold your pots, so if you're underway, you can cook safely. Marlow uses all the best stuff, so Growy faucets with a lifetime warranty, Frankie stainless steel sinks, KitchenAid garbage disposal, just all really good quality components. All right, this is Ray Marine's electronic system, and I really like these screens. I think what's really happened in the industry is none of these builders build a screen, of course, but the screen quality and camera quality has just really gotten excellent. And whether you're Ray Marine or Fruno or Garmin, they're all pretty easy to use like your phone. The quality's good. They tend to use the same Navionics type maps and charts. being Ray Marine from England, they actually can use more different chart types. So if you're cruising in remote parts of the world, they have Admiralty charts and other charts that aren't typically used in the US. But there are a lot of options on charts. And of course, with your Starlink connection, you've got access to the internet, so you can, use anything with your phone or your PC or your iPad. So it's really come a long way, and it all works really well, pretty seamlessly. We do have the FLIR night vision camera, which works really well with this system as well. And I mentioned the joystick system earlier. So this is a Zenta joystick. So when I push forward, the boat goes forward. When I push sideways, my bow and stern thruster come on, the boat goes sideways. When I go like this, the boat will actually move like that. It knows how to interface with the engines and the thrusters at the same time to move this boat at a 45-degree angle. If I want to do a 180, I spin it, and the boat will spin on its axis. This boat will sit and wait for that bridge to open. These are your thruster controls, so these are your hydraulic thruster controls. This is your FLIR night vision camera right here. I don't find this is a very useful tool offshore. It doesn't see very far away. But if you get stuck in the intercoastal at 8 o'clock at night, it can be pretty helpful. If you've got heavy fog and you're looking for a vessel that has a heat signature, it'll show up really, really well. If the vessel is anchored out and it's the same temperature as the surrounding water, it doesn't show up at all. So it has its limitations, but it has its uses as well. I think probably the best safety thing for it is if you ever had a person in the water in a marina and you're looking for someone that's fallen in, this would be a great tool because it would show up really, really well. Here's your stabilizer control. And again, those are fed off the same hydraulic system as the thrusters. That's my spotlight. All right, and so when you're running the boat, of course you can run from the upper helm or lower helm. I'm down here a lot here in Florida. I just don't like to be hot. I tend to go to the upper helm when I want the height, so I'll often be leaving the marina from the upper helm just because I want to see everything going on. But once I'm out the inlet, once I'm offshore, or even in the intercoastal waterway, if it's not too crazy, I'm down here. It's much more comfortable. So this becomes the primary helm station for many. My engine keys are here. I wanted to show you a couple things on the engines. So there's many screens you can look at. I want to show you this because it's so unusual on this boat. So you can see that the average fuel consumption of this boat on this engine is 17 gallons an hour. And the lifetime load factor is 29%. The lifetime engine hours is 877 hours. And 172 of those 877 hours were at idle. Lifetime fuel, 15,000 gallons. So I've had guys tell me they need to do a top-end overhaul at 100,000 gallons. Everyone has an opinion about what that means, but 15,000 gallons in a 2013 boat is unheard of. Also, I wanted to point out overhead. Hang on. There we go. Overhead here are all my systems for running the boat. So my bilge pump switches are here. My high water alarm is here. My owner aboard light is here, my nav lights, my battery switches, my 12 volt breakers for navigation, my 24 volt breakers for navigation. I have little indicators here, so anytime a bilge pump kicks on, I can see it visually. It'll also tell me whether my nav lights are on or not. It'll tell me if high water alarms are on. This gauge here tells me my holding tank, my gray water tank, my freshwater tank, my battery voltages, This right here is my inverter panel, so I can see my inverter has power coming to it, and that's the largest charger on the boat, so it's an inverter charger. This is an Outback 3500 watt inverter charger, and so the shore power comes into this device, and then this device is charging my house batteries, and my house batteries are supplying the voltage to that light, for example. All right, let's go down below and I'll show you the staterooms. All right, welcome to the full beam master of Carpe Diem. Pretty unusual to have a full beam master with his and hers heads in a boat under 70 feet. Really done a nice job here. It's a real king size bed, there's plenty of room to walk around. These are called soji screens, and they give you privacy without blocking out all the light, but really nice how they work. Really a nice look, kind of an Asian look. Tons of storage on this boat, so I like to divide up the storage so that we don't have a wall of tall cabinets. So what we've got is a nice hanging locker here, one just like it on the other side, two more forward, another closet here, and we do have a nice ship safe in here as well. Really nice when you're going to the Bahamas and you want to carry a bunch of cash. Great to have a safe in the boat. Really done a nice thing with the air conditioning here, so it's kind of annoying to have the air conditioning blowing right on your head. So the return is down here, and the AC is blowing out softly over this and falling throughout the room. So you're not feeling that focused air on your face. The head, his and hers heads, they're the same on both sides. Really nice big shower. I'm right at about 6 feet, at least I was. Growy shower fixtures, lots of counter space. This is cream of marble. Again, growy faucet, really well done. So to build that really large master stateroom with his and hers heads aft, we didn't build a big third stateroom. We did this little cubby area, great for a grandkid. We were also able to get the washer and dryer out here, so got really easy access to the washer and dryer. And they're nice 24-inch Whirlpool units. The other advantage of this layout is instead of building the small third stateroom, we were able to build a really large head for the VIP. So this head is 50% bigger than you would typically find in a 3-stateroom boat. And again, a really nice big shower. Growy faucets. It's all gel-coated white inside. These are vacuum flush heads, ceramic toilets. And there's two ways into this head, so I can come in the way you're looking now, or from the stateroom side. So now the guests can come straight into the head from here. Nice queen-size berth here in the VIP. Really easy to get in and out of. Big hanging lockers on each side. Nice storage drawers below the bed. Really a nice layout for long-term cruising. All right, come on up to the bow. I want to show you some of the improvements he made up there. Again, this varnish has all been redone. Really well done as well. This is my fuel fill right here. You can see he's got a rag here to catch any drips. But I can fill that fuel tank from port or starboard side. That tube is only about that long to the top of that tank. It's the tank you saw in the engine room. And again, it's a center of buoyancy. Really easy boat to manage. I've been on a number of old trawlers that have 2 saddle tanks, 2 main tanks, a bunch of transfer valves. It's very easy to make a mistake. It's very easy to overfill a tank. It's very easy to run out of fuel. With this system, with one large tank, things are greatly simplified, and you're much less likely to have a problem. Also, the tank material is important. A lot of boats have metal tanks, and metal tanks sweat. And the water from condensation from a sweating metal tank gets into the fuel, and that's what generally causes the algae problem they call it. It's not really algae, but most of the problems with fuel systems on boats is not the fuel. You didn't get bad fuel. The tank itself creates a lot of problems, especially in an older boat. These tanks in this boat are all composite fiberglass. So they're built with coarse cell foam, epoxy fiberglass. They're never going to leak. They're repairable if they did leak, because you don't have to weld on them. And they don't have the sweating problem of a metal tank. So in addition to recovering the cockpit seats, they did the bow seats as well. And instead of revarnishing this cap rail here, which is a lot of work, we all gripped this oyster white to match the deck. So we're never going to have to varnish this again. We also painted this rail up here. This was teak, varnished teak. We just wanted to keep the teak, beautiful teak look, but cut down on the maintenance a little bit. And I think it's a really good compromise. This up here is so exposed to salt mist, and it's exposed to the sun all the time. Changing this cap rail and this rail here from varnished teak to all grip is really going to cut down on the ongoing maintenance of the vessel. And I don't think it really detracts from the look at all. All of this teak is in really good shape. This is just natural. We tend to go gray and not oil it here in Florida, because when we oil it and make it dark, it's just too hot to be barefoot on. So here in the tropics, we tend to let this teak go blonde, like this has gone blonde. It's a little wet right now because it just rained, but we just leave it natural, lasts a long time. Also, you'll notice there's not a bunch of bungs and screw holes in this teak. So the way Marlow puts this down is with an epoxy, so you don't have a bunch of screw holes that can become leaks and problems down the line. All right, let's go up to the Flybridge and show you around there. Welcome to the Flybridge. One of the big upgrades this owner did late last year is replacing this whole enclosure. And it's that stiff material. It's really easy to see through, holds up really well, very clear, really nice enclosure up here. The way it works is these pin back. If you see these little clips right here, when this panel opens up, instead of having to find a place to put it where I want to scratch it, I just undo these zippers and I pin it up here to the ceiling and it stays here. Much safer than the roll-up ones, getting scratched or trying to find a place to put this. Again, two nice big chart plotter screens. This pad up here is interesting. I've had a lot of owners do it. If you've got a pet, if you've got a small grandchild, what's great about having, I remember when my daughter was 2, she loved being up here. I can see out and I can see her. So it's really nice if you've got pets or grandchildren or something where you want to keep an eye on everything, to have someone right here. So in addition to the cushions down below, we've redone all these cushions up here in a nice outdoor white fabric. It really looks sharp. I've got another seat up here. And this is a Sub-Zero beverage center, just like I had in the Salon. So lots of drink storage here, and that's an ice maker right there. So I have ice here and ice in the Salon. Up here is a nice Wolf electric grill. They work really well. And another sink. And I want to show you out here. This boat was designed to do the Great Loop. So there's 2 little thumb screws up there. This whole dome folds under. The radar is actually mounted on these tubes. 2 thumb screws up there. Undo those. The whole radar assembly folds under. So this is about 18.4, I believe it is. The bridge in Chicago is 19.6. So if you're planning on doing the Great Loop, this boat's already set up to do it. The Starlink's actually mounted forward on the hardtop. You can't see it from here. But actually, you could actually get rid of these domes long term if you find that the Starlink serves all your needs. Really nice davit here, 1,000-pound telescoping davit. So it has a wired remote and it has a wireless remote. So I can very easily launch the dinghy. I really like the wireless remote because when you come back in the dinghy, if you have the wireless remote with you, you can secure that to the bridle while you're in the dinghy and just take a little bit of tension on the cable and hop off the boat. Much simpler than having to maneuver the boat around off the swim platform. Well, I hope you enjoyed this tour of Carpe Diem. It's starting to rain on me, so we're going to close it out here. Please make comments down below. I'll answer as many as I can, and feel free to reach out to me anytime. The boat is actually in Stuart, Florida. I live in Bradenton, but I'm over here all the time. So if you want to come see the boat, just give me a couple days notice and I'll get you on board. Thank you very much.